full moon lit up the Beaumont vineyard, casting a silver glow on the grapevines. Helena Beaumont stood there, her heart heavy, lost in thoughts about an uncertain future. By morning, she would be marrying Baron Mercer, a man whose ambitions seemed endless. It was her only way out, but deep down something warned her of hidden dangers. She could feel the weight of losing the vineyard, which had once thrived under her care. It cut her like a knife. Ever since her first husband died, her world had fallen apart. Now, facing the threat of losing everything again, she felt forced into this marriage. But instead of safety, a wave of doubt washed over her. Sitting on the porch, Helena's mind drifted to the past. It had only been a year since tragedy struck, taking her husband, a passionate man who had died in a duel. She remembered his laughter and how his eyes sparkled when he talked about their dreams for the vineyard. For a while everything seemed perfect, but fate can be cruel, and she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong in the land she was about to sell. As her gaze wandered among the shadows of the vines, a chilling thought crossed her mind. What if Baron Mercer was behind her husband's death? A shiver ran down her spine. He always spoke of the property with such excitement, as if it was more than just land, but a piece of his power. The idea that he could have plotted her husband's demise filled her with a new fear. What was really behind Mercer's offer? Urgency turned into doubt. Helena felt she had until dawn to uncover the truth before the ink dried on the contract. Her heart raced, and with it a spark of courage ignited within her. This was her chance to change the story. Standing up, she decided she wouldn't leave her fate to chance. She needed to dig deeper into Mercer's past. With quiet steps, she slipped inside the house, dodging the servants bustling about for the engagement party. The velvet drapes and lit candles felt so out of place against the fog of uncertainty surrounding her. She needed to check her office for any clues that could prove her suspicions. With a sharp mind, she approached one of the servants and, with a smile that didn't show her true intentions, casually asked if there were any messages from Mercer. The young man looked confused, but thankfully didn't know anything. The path to Mercer's office was clear, but each step made Helena hesitate. What if she was wrong? What if her gut feeling, instead of saving her, led her into a trap? The thought of being watched was almost real. But what was at stake was bigger than her safety. It was her husband's memory and the legacy of the vineyard. When she reached the Baron's mansion, everything felt still, a strange calm. The heavy door creaked open, revealing a richly decorated hallway. Helena slipped through the spaces like a ghost in her own life. Everything felt mysterious and heavy. A flash of light caught her eye on a painting of Mercer in his uniform, and doubt washed over her again. What had he really achieved? She quickly turned toward the office. Luckily, the door was slightly open. With a quick move, she stepped inside, and the darkness swallowed her fears. As her eyes adjusted, she saw a large desk made of dark wood. Papers piled up like they had been tossed there in a hurry. The smell of tobacco and ink filled the air, sharpening her senses. She was alone, but for how long? Suddenly, her gaze landed on notebooks to her left. This could be where she found answers. With shaking hands, Helena opened one, and her heart raced as she glimpsed Mercer's notes. They were clear and to the point, but what caught her attention was a diary that stood out among the others. It could hold a secret. Then she heard footsteps. Her senses sharpened like knives. She needed to get out of there, but the urge to uncover the truth was stronger than her fear. With a swift motion, she grabbed the diary and tucked it under her cloak. The pain of acting on instinct kept her steady in her choice. The footsteps grew closer, and with each heartbeat, adrenaline surged through her. With desperate calm, she moved toward the door. But what if Mercer saw her? What if he recognized her as a threat? Fear wrapped around her like a shroud, but there was no turning back. All she could do was hope her courage would carry her forward. Without looking back, she left the office and glided down the hallway toward the exit. Her breath was heavy with anticipation and anxiety, wishing desperately that there was still time to prove that Baron Mercer was not who he claimed to be. Outside, the night felt darker, and the cold breeze brushed against her face, as if life was pushing her toward an inevitable clash. In 48 hours, everything could fall apart, and Helena knew she had to act fast. If Mercer found out she was in his house, the story might end badly before she even had a chance to rewrite it. The search for the truth was just beginning, and Helena's courage was the only light in the darkness. The trek to Damian Blackwood's neighboring estate was a struggle through a fog of fears and desperate hopes. Helena didn't dare look back, but the feeling that Mercer might be following her made her quicken her pace. With every crack of a branch and every gust of wind, her body reacted, testing the limits of what she could endure for a truth that burned in her chest. The old mansion of the Marquis stood tall, but its shadows felt oddly familiar and comforting right now. Helena slipped through the garden's darkness, the diary still safe under her cloak. The sky was slowly brightening, but the morning light didn't bring relief. It was a warning of the time pressing down on her. She knocked on the heavy wooden door, the cold wood biting at her fingers. The sound echoed in the stillness of the estate. After a moment that felt like forever, the door creaked open. Damien Blackwood, strong and reserved, appeared before her. His eyes held a mix of distrust and curiosity, studying her closely. Helena couldn't let herself hesitate. She needed courage once more. "Marquis Blackwood, I need your help," she said, holding her breath. Her gaze locked on his. The weight of the diary under her clothes reminded her of what was at stake. "And why should I trust you?" Damien's voice was deep and sharp, a reminder of the battles he had fought, scars telling stories no one else could hear. "Because Baron Mercer wants to destroy me." Her calm voice cracked as she realized she was about to share her truth. "He had my first husband killed, Marquis, and now he wants what's mine." They locked eyes, thick tension hanging between them. Damien frowned, his face showing more doubt than answers. She sensed there was more to him, but something held him back, almost visibly. "And why should I offer you shelter? No sane man would risk protecting a woman like you," he said, his voice hardening further. "Because this woman is in danger and needs your—" She paused. There were no words to explain what he meant to her, or the hope still flickering inside her. "I need a safe place. I'll tell you where Mercer will find me," she pleaded. Her eyes filled with urgency. He hesitated, his gaze drifting away from her as if battling with what his heart wanted. But when he looked back at her, he gestured for her to come inside. The reluctance in his eyes sparked a thread of hope in her, even if it was faint. "Come in, then." "But no, I'm not one to trust strangers," he said, closing the door behind her, a move that echoed with the determination he hid. The mansion was a far cry from her own home, its walls filled with memories, traumas, and maybe a kind of protection he thought he didn't need. He led her to a simple but cozy room. The smell of wood and a hint of brandy in the air brought an unexpected warmth. "Sit down," he ordered, motioning impassively to the sofa. Helena settled in, while he stood, as if waiting for proof of her dishonesty. But she didn't care. The urgency in her voice, the need to share her thoughts and fears, was stronger than her hesitation. I have this," she said, pulling Mercer's diary from under her cloak, lifting it as if it were a whispering treasure. "This could prove everything." Damien frowned, his eyes lighting up for a moment with focused doubt. He stepped closer, taking the diary with the same care he would give to a weapon. "And how did you get this?" he asked, suspicion still lacing his tone. Helena took a deep breath, searching for the right words. "I found it in Mercer's mansion. He confessed to more than just murder." The tension between them grew as Damien flipped through the pages, looking for any sign of what she had mentioned. With each change in his expression, she noticed he was becoming more open. Something inside him began to soften under the weight of her words. "What if this is a trick? This could be a trap," he murmured, turning the page carefully. But even with his doubts, she saw a spark of hope in his eyes that made her believe he was starting to see her truth. "You don't have to believe me, Marquis, but I'm the only one who can find the truth. Remember what you said before? That no one would love me? But tell me this," Helena said, standing tall in front of him, determination in her voice. "Even if I'm a stranger, you can't ignore what's in this diary. Not what they did to my family or to me." The tension between them tightened. Helena could feel his resistance slowly fading, like a wall about to crumble. The shadows of his insecurities were touched by the light from their small meeting. Damien seemed to understand, even if he was hesitant, that there was an end to his isolation. "If you want me to trust you, I need your plan," he finally said, his expression softening but still cautious. "Finding proof is your goal," he concluded. The wedding contract with Mercer was approaching, and that was their only target. Helena felt a new tension forming between them, a growing spark of liberation. "At the engagement party, I can sneak into his mansion again. I'll search for files, anything I can find, but I need your help. Without you, I can't get past the guards, and I don't know if I can face Mercer again." Damien's face hardened again, but she could tell he shared her determination. It was a trait he couldn't hide, and even amidst the chaos, a new conflict was rising. What she felt wasn't just a bond of desperation, but something new that challenged his defenses. "If you're going, I'll go too. This can't be a reckless plan. We'll do this together," he said, his look of determination turning into a silent promise. But as the hours passed and night approached, Helena felt the real danger closing in. Mercer knew she had left, and even though Damien trusted her, the shadows of the past were not far behind. Amid all this, an unspoken passion grew between them, like a whisper silencing their fears, an echo that promised more. As a sign of what was to come, the threats didn't just scatter, they began to close in around them. And so, as their plan formed and the tension grew, Helena knew the real test was still ahead. The night felt heavy with anxiety and expectation, as if the air itself was charged with electricity. Helena watched Damien from the corner of her eye as she settled on the sofa, her mind racing with hurried plans for the engagement party the next day. He stood there, strong and steady, bringing both a sense of safety and strangeness. "So, the ball will be our only chance," she whispered, her brow furrowed in focus. "It should be enough of a distraction for me to get into Mercer's office." Damien nodded, but his face showed concern. He raised a hand, fingers brushing the scar on his cheek. "So real, so raw. What if you get caught? The Baron won't hesitate to make you pay for that," he said, his voice low, stirring a bit of fear in Helena's heart. "I have no choice," she replied, determination burning inside her. "The truth has to come out. It's the only way I can break free from him, not just for the vineyard, but for my husband's memory. I can't let his murder go unanswered." Damien studied her face, his expression torn. Helena's strong will sparked a mix of admiration and worry in him. There was a fire in the woman standing before him, a strength he didn't expect, making him hesitate to pull away. It was her vulnerability, her emotional scars, and the courage that made her shine amidst so much. "Darkness," she took a step closer. "You have scars too, Damien. Scars that shape your life. We're both fighting demons that haunt us." His eyes glimmered in the soft light filtering through the window, and Helena wondered if beneath the tough exterior of the Marquis there was a man she could share a new story with, something beyond loneliness. But Damien didn't seem ready to talk about that. He turned away and began to pace the room, lost in his own memories and doubts. "We need a more specific plan. We can't risk your life or our quest for justice, Helena," he said, finally focusing again. Hours passed in whispers and plans, as shadows from the past mixed with the future they hoped to create. The news of the engagement party rang like a bell in their minds, a countdown to an event that could change everything. With every new idea shared, the tension grew. The night turned into early morning when Damien's hesitation finally gave way to an unexplainable urge, and he moved closer to her again. Helena felt a mix of warmth and a shiver from his presence. He studied her, trying to memorize every detail of her face, as if she were a mystery he was determined to solve. "If we can gather proof that Mercer is behind your husband's death," he started, stopping to look at her, "we could put an end to this story." She took a deep breath, letting the emotion wash over her. "Yes, but it depends on us, and we can't afford any mistakes. We need to be careful." "How ironic this is," he said in a dark, almost cynical tone. "You, a countess, and me, a marquis marked by the past and scars that will never fade. Who would have thought we'd be joining forces in such chaos?" Helena smiled, a silent bond forming between them, a promise that they weren't so different after all, both haunted by their pasts, but now sharing a common goal. They both sensed that things could still get worse. The two ended the night in a silent pact, like allies in a battle that had been going on for too long. Unknowingly, their connection grew stronger with each passing moment. The tension building wasn't just between them and Mercer, it was also in their own hearts. The next morning the sky was grey, mirroring the weight of their journey, but Helena couldn't let fear take over. There was more at stake than just her freedom. The truth had to come out, and this fight was theirs. Damien seemed more certain about sharing his plans, like a wall he had built around himself. Once, Helena had the courage to ask, "Have you let yourself think about the day this will all end?" He hesitated before answering, "No, I just hope that one day I can live a moment without shadows." His honesty touched her heart, and she moved closer, as if every word was woven with unspoken promises. "I hope that too." That afternoon, as they got ready for the ball, the air was thick with expectation. Helena wore a long blue dress that hugged her curves and made her eyes shine even brighter. In his formal suit, Damien looked like a nobleman marked by his past. They were ready to become more than allies. They were about to explore a thin line between friendship and undeniable longing. As the carriage took her to Mercer's mansion, Helena felt her nerves spike. The Baron could be watching every move, ready for any mistake. Damien held her hand for just a moment, a silent gesture of support. Her heart raced. "Remember, the priority is finding the diary. We can't miss this chance. The rest will come later," he whispered, warming her cold hand in the night. The ball was lavish, with people dancing, laughing, and showing off. The glamour wrapped around the guests, but for Helena, every smile felt like a mask. She needed to sneak in, get to the files, and escape this nightmare. Damien moved away to create distractions. His role was crucial to avoid detection. It was time. Helena looked around the crowded room, and when she saw Mercer in his throne of wealth, a chill ran down her spine. The Baron's confidence was deep, painting a future only he could see. As she headed toward the office, her mind reminded her of the risk. Layers of tension were about to unfold, and a spark of determination lit her path. It was time to reveal the truth and finally drive a stake into the dark legacy. Helena took a deep breath as she entered Mercer's mansion, her heart pounding loudly. The soft music from the orchestra filled the air, and the glow from the chandeliers reflected the place's wealth. Each step on those grand stairs felt like an added weight on her shoulders. She needed the diary, the only piece that could end this dark story surrounding her. Dancers swirled around her, but Helena felt alone, like a lost shadow in the luxury. The Baron's constant presence, chatting and laughing with guests, felt more threatening with each moment. The way he draped himself in charm only made what she knew of his wicked heart more repulsive. She searched for her friends, but time slipped through her fingers. She knew she had to break away from the crowd, that Damien's distraction was her only chance to get what she needed. With firm steps, she excused herself from an unimportant Duchess and headed down a hallway that would lead to Mercer's office. The hallway, lined with portraits of ancestors, was empty. Each door around her held secrets and promises, but she ignored them. She tightened her dress against her body, accentuating her curves, and moved toward the Baron's office. She had to be quick. She had to be smart. After making sure no one was around, Helena reached the door. A chill ran through her as she hesitated. Holding her breath, she turned the doorknob. With a click, the door opened, revealing a lavish office filled with scattered books and papers, but her eyes locked onto a central desk where a book stood out. It looked like a diary. As soon as she stepped inside, she heard footsteps approaching. She crouched behind a divan, her heart racing. Slowly the door opened. It was a guest from the ball, a gentleman she didn't recognize, definitely not who she expected. Helena held her breath, her adrenaline spiking. The man seemed to scan the room, treating it like his own private space. Helena dared not move, hoping he would leave at any moment. But time dragged on, and instead of leaving, he began to examine Mercer's desk. Her knock at the door followed by laughter. More guests were arriving. Helena froze. The space felt tight, the sounds around her swirling in a chaotic dance with her nerves. Peeking through a crack, she saw the man smile at the approaching chatter, pleased to have company. She needed to act. When the man finally turned away, Helena reached out, pushing herself from her hiding spot, and dashed for the desk. Her goal: grab the diary and vanish before anyone saw her. The desire for freedom was all she could think about. "What are you doing here?" Her heart stopped at the smooth voice. It was Mercer, standing in the doorway. With wide eyes, she hesitated for a moment, but she couldn't back down. She adjusted the clasp on her dress, reminding herself that her life depended on this. She needed courage, and leaning on the choices that brought her here, she spoke quickly and firmly. "I'm here to find the truth." Her voice rang out despite her fear, filled with determination. Mercer smiled, but it was more a sneer than anything else. "Ah, the young widow seeking a truth she can't handle. I thought you understood the limits of what you could do." But Helena knew there was no room for doubt. He might hold the power now, but what she knew could shatter the mask of invincibility Mercer wore. "What you say is just an old trick to hide your crimes." The Baron stepped forward, and the heat of intimidation was thick in the air. Helena didn't back down, her determination challenging every step he took. The diary was her only secret, a promising light at the end of the tunnel she was willing to chase. Helena thought, "We're in a dangerous game," but for a moment, her mind drifted to Damien. The Marquis should be creating a distraction to save her. It was clear that the Baron wouldn't let this go easily. "The truth, Helena, is a sharp weapon," Mercer said with a sneer, clearly amused. "You should learn not to wield weapons you don't understand." Quickly, Helena decided to use her charm to draw his attention away. "What can I do to make you more willing to talk?" she asked, her voice teasing. A calculated flirtation she was ready to push to the limits. Mercer's eyes sparkled with a mix of curiosity and disdain. "Do you really think that will work?" In that moment, Damien's words echoed in her mind. Don't waste time with him. Focus on the diary. But the undeniable attraction she felt for the Baron was a challenge to her willpower. She was ready to search for weaknesses, to find cracks in his armor. Damien was outside, and that thought fueled her. She took a deep breath and stood tall. If Mercer underestimated her, he had no idea how much she understood his game. But even in the heat of the moment, a chill of insecurity wrapped around her. Whatever happened next would be a matter of life or death. Not just for her, but for Damien too. Suddenly she heard quick footsteps approaching the office door. It was Damien. She was an unstoppable force between them. Mercer, still wearing that fake calm smile, noticed the change in the air. Looks like someone is trying to make a fuss on my property, he said, his eyes locked on Helena, as if trying to predict her next move. Without thinking, Helena darted to Mercer's side, heading for the desk, knowing that action was about to heat up. The tension was thick, and their battle could ignite at any moment. Meanwhile, Damien was outside, ready, knowing time was running out. The pressure was rising. Helena needed that diary, and above all she needed the freedom it promised. Their futures were about to collide, and every second counted. The tension in the room was electric, like a storm ready to break. Helena knew the moment to act was close, and adrenaline surged through her. Mercer watched her with a cynical smile, pretending to be in control, but she could sense the vulnerability beneath his arrogance. The truth you seek will only bring you pain. Why not accept my offer and leave it all behind, he suggested, a wicked glint in his eyes. She stepped closer to the desk, her heart racing, but her stance was strong. Because pain isn't a choice you can force on me, Mercer. No one should live under your rule. The Baron let out a sarcastic laugh, but Helena saw her chance. With surprising speed, she moved toward the next desk, where the diary lay in a flickering light. As she reached for it, she felt the paper beneath her fingers, and a wave of hope washed over her. But before she could pull back, Mercer lunged forward, grabbing her arm roughly. "You think you can escape like this, foolish woman?" She fought back, pulling away and spinning around, ready to use her own strength against him. With a quick move, she pushed Mercer aside, fueled by the courage she had built over the past days, and shouted, "Damien, now!" Outside the door, Damien saw his chance. He burst into the room, a powerful presence that made the dust dance around him. He spotted Helena, the diary in her hands, and a wave of protectiveness washed over him. "Get out!" Damien ordered Mercer, his eyes fierce and determined. Helena ran to join Damien, her breath shaky with anxiety. The confrontation was about to explode. Mercer, with a sneer, addressed Damien. "You really want to protect her? A woman who wouldn't think twice about betraying you." But Damien didn't waver. He knew Helena far beyond any rivalry or feelings. Their bond was built on trust that went deeper than their struggles. He stood between Mercer and Helena, his sword glinting in the candlelight like a warning. "If you want the truth, be ready to face it, Mercer," Damien shouted, his voice steady. Then, seizing the moment, he gripped his sword tightly, fully prepared. Helena watched, stunned, as the fight escalated. Mercer, furious, drew his own blade, fighting like a man with everything to lose. The room turned into a battlefield, filled with the clash of metal and the rush of adrenaline. The fight was fierce. Damien moved swiftly, strike after strike, forcing Mercer to retreat. But the Baron was cunning and ruthless, attacking without mercy. Each move revealed the history they both carried, Damien's dark past as a war veteran and Helena's desperate present, facing her demons. The struggle dragged on, and even with the intensity of the battle, Damien's desire to protect Helena fueled him. With a precise move, he disarmed Mercer, sending the Baron's sword flying. "I will never show mercy to cruelty," Damien said, anger hardening his gaze. Now unarmed, Mercer made a desperate lunge at Helena. With a shout, Damien stopped him, pulling the man into the light of truth and justice. In a bold move, Helena dove to the side and, using her quick thinking, grabbed a crystal lamp, striking Mercer on the back and knocking him to the ground. The room fell silent, and with a determined look, Helena turned to Damien, gratitude shining in her eyes. United by their fight, they faced Mercer, who struggled but knew he was beaten. "Your reign of terror ends here, Mercer," Damien declared, standing strong beside Helena. As the lights flickered around them, the Baron realized his empire of lies was crumbling within these walls. But there was one last blow to deliver. Helena couldn't let him escape. With renewed courage, she stepped closer to him. "You won't hide the truth anymore." She felt empowered, knowing the diary held the key to her freedom from the past. With the confidence she found in herself and Damien's support, she declared, "I will expose your crimes. Everyone is ready to hear the truth, Soul Trader." The night of the ball had become the peak of her fight. Mercer's corruption would be uncovered, and the truth would spread across the county. When it was all over, she and Damien could build a new future together, far from this nightmare. With Mercer finally down and the authorities on their way, Helena felt her life change. In the chaos of the moment, she took Damien's hand. "Are we going to face the truth together?" she asked. Damien looked into Helena's eyes and realized it wasn't just her strength in danger that drew him to her, but also the light she brought into his dark world. "I'm with you, in this life and the ones to come." They stepped out of the room, leaving behind the haunting echoes of the past. The future shone ahead of them, and freedom, though still a path to walk, was now within reach as they held hands tightly. And so, bound by truth and courage, Helena and Damien began a new journey, ready to face the world together, lovers, allies, and explorers of a bright future.